Our system nearly failed and our democratic foundation destroyed, but for people like you. Judge Luttig, I want to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on the ongoing threat. You've written the clear and present danger to our democracy. Now is that former President Donald Trump and other political allies appear prepared to seize the presidency in 2024 if Mr. Trump or one of his anointed candidates is not elected by the American people. What do you mean by this?
Mr. Chairman, I'm honored beyond words by your words. I was honored on January 6, 2021, then also honored beyond words to have been able to come to the aid of Vice President Mike Pence. I prayed that day, just like the Vice President prayed that day. I believe we may have prayed the same prayer to the same God. I prayed that same prayer with my wife this morning before I came into these hearings. I have written, as you said, Chairman Thompson, that today, almost 2 years after that fateful day in January 2021, that still Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy. That's not because of what happened on January 6th. It's because to this very day, the former president, his allies and supporters pledge that in the presidential election of 2024, if the former president or his anointed successor as the Republican Party presidential candidate were to lose that election, that they would attempt to overturn that 2024 election in the same way that they attempted to overturn the 2020 election, but succeed in 2024 where they failed in 2020. I don't speak those words lightly. I would have never spoken those words ever in my life, except that that's what the former president and his allies are telling us. As I said in that New York Times op-ed, wherein I was speaking about the Electoral Count Act of 18 1987, the former president and his allies are executing that blueprint for 2024 in open and plain view of the American public. I repeat, I would have never uttered one single one of those words unless the former president and his allies were candidly and proudly speaking those exact words to America. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to appear here today for these proceedings.
Thank you again, Judge Luttig.
My next guest is a retired four-star admiral and former commander of all U.S. Special Operation Forces worldwide. His new book is called Sea Stories. Please welcome Admiral Bill McRaven. Retired Navy Admiral William McRaven, the former commander of the U.S. Special Operations Command, says Biden will make America lead again. McRaven, most famous for overseeing some of the most important operations in U.S. history, such as the raid that killed OBL, the capture of Iraqi President Saddam Hussein, and the rescue of Captain Phillips from Somali pirates. Admiral McRaven joins us now. Admiral, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, most importantly, for your nearly 4 decades of service to this nation. I want to start with your op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today. You write, quote, "I am a pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, small government, strong defense, and a national anthem standing conservative. But I also believe that Black Lives Matter, that the Dreamers deserve a path to citizenship, that diversity and inclusion are essential to our national success, that education is the great equalizer, that climate change is real, and that the First Amendment is the cornerstone of our democracy. Most important, I believe that America must lead in the world with courage, conviction, and a sense of honor and humility," unquote. Was it a difficult decision to announce that you're voting for Biden? This is the first time you've ever publicly weighed in on a presidential race.
Well, it was a difficult decision, Jake, to announce that I was voting. Obviously, you know, as a senior retired military officer, these are challenging times, and there's a little bit of an unwritten rule that senior officers don't come out and endorse a candidate. However, I felt that the direction of the country was heading in such a bad direction that we needed new leadership, and that Joe Biden will be a much, much better leader than Donald Trump. And the commanding officer had a certain swagger about him. You know, we went out, we did a couple of dives, we surfaced, we had a Steel Beach picnic. He flew the University of Texas flag for all of us Texas middies that were there. He had a certain swagger about him and a certain ability to connect with the sailors on the submarine. He had a great sense of humor. He kind of harassed them. They would harass him. There was this mutual back and forth. And that showed me what a great leader looked like. Let me move forward now. I graduated from the University of Texas in 1977. I go off to SEAL training, and as President Rondeau mentioned, I happened to have a little speech back in 2014 about my time in SEAL training. First, the thing about SEAL training, for those of you unfamiliar, are the officers and the enlisted go through the same training. And it teaches you very early on that as a leader, you have got to be able to share the hardships and the danger with the men and women that work for you. And that was a lesson that was not lost on me. The men that worked for me as a SEAL, they wanted you to be out there, and they wanted you to share those hardships. And when you got into a command where you would find that the commanding officer didn't make it to morning PT because, he had a phone call he had to take that morning, or the executive officer didn't show up because he had an appointment across town. Some reason they didn't show up for PT, or they didn't make the dives, or they didn't make the runs. What you wanted as a rank and file in the SEAL teams, you wanted to look at your leaders and ask, are they there? Are they there when we're doing the hard stuff? Are they there when we're doing the jumps and the dive and the dangerous stuff? They better be. That's what's expected of us as leaders. And I will tell you, This didn't have to do with just my time in the SEAL team. I saw it everywhere I went.
We're going to walk down and I'll be there with you.
Admiral, you say that the world no longer looks up to America because they have seen, quote, our dismissiveness, our lack of respect, and our transactional approach to global issues, unquote. You really think the world doesn't look up to us at all? And also, if that's true, the election of Joe Biden will change that?
I do think the election of Joe Biden will change that. In fact, I think it can almost change within 5 minutes.
Something changed for you in 2018, it seems. You've become a critic of President Trump. In 2018, you wrote of Trump, quote, through your actions, you have embarrassed us in the eyes of our children, humiliated us on the world stage, and worst of all, divided us as a nation. Trump dismissed your comments. He claimed you're a Hillary Clinton fan. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I suspect he'll paint you again as a partisan Democrat, even though you acknowledged all the conservative views you hold. Let me give you an opportunity to give a preemptive defense of yourself from whatever he says.
Yeah, you know, this actually started, Jake, when the president came out and said that the media was the enemy of the American people. And the fact of the matter is, I've fought the enemy of the American people, and it is not the media. And in that comment, I said that this attack on the media was, you know, the worst attack on democracy in my lifetime. And people said, how could that be the case? Well, when you go after the First Amendment, of which you are sworn to uphold, and you begin to attack the media, and then as you've seen his administration go on, he goes after, you know, peaceful rallies and those sorts of things. This is not the way to be a president.
Donald Trump and his allies and supporters are a clear and present danger to American democracy.
The worst attack on democracy in my lifetime.